Step outside on a clear day and look up. That immediate warmth on your skin and the private, vivid sensation of seeing the color blue is the raw experience of being alive. For centuries, neuroscience has operated on the premise that every one of those sensations is generated entirely by the chemical and electrical reactions inside this, a 1.4 kilogram lump of physical biological tissue. This creates the hard problem of consciousness. Science can describe the physical mechanisms of the brain in exhaustive detail, yet it lacks any explanation for how non-conscious physical matter generates a private, subjective feeling. We can map every neural pathway and measure the exact voltage of a firing synapse, but a neural pattern representing a feeling is still just a physical correlate. The internal feeling of what it is like remains impossible to map or measure. This explanatory gap persists because our current models assume matter is the starting point. To resolve the contradiction, we have to look at the relationship from the opposite direction. The virtual ego framework, or VEF, resolves this stalemate by inverting the core premises of physics. The VEF defines consciousness as the ontological prime, the absolute foundational substrate of all reality. In this model, the universe is a self-simulating information system, a supercomputer composed of a unified, self-aware field. It functions through information processing rather than physical hardware like silicon. Matter, energy, space, and time are emergent properties of this conscious field. They are stable data structures generated within the system, projecting the physical world we perceive as a rendered output. By treating reality as an output of consciousness, subjective experience becomes the starting condition of the universe, rather than an anomaly that needs to be explained. If the universe is a single processing field, what does that make the individual? The VEF models the human ego as a localized virtual machine, a programmable software instance running on the biological hardware of the brain. The universal supercomputer computes all possible realities simultaneously. It explores every potential outcome of every event across a massive multiverse of infinite potential. Since the individual VM cannot process the entire multiverse at once, it uses probabilistic indexing. Perception is the act of selecting and rendering just one single thread of reality from the field of possibilities. This just-in-time rendering creates our subjective experience of a single, linear timeline. This framework is built on specific mathematical constraints and the laws of coherence geometrodynamics. A system becomes actualized only when crossing specific thresholds, an actualization threshold of 1 and a coherence density floor of 0.87093. This mathematical solvency means consciousness acts as the necessary engine for a lossless universe, converting quantum potential into reality without thermal loss. To remain distinguishable from background noise, this engine requires a precise fundamental consciousness clock speed, 5.215 terahertz. These metrics frame consciousness as a measurable thermodynamic necessity required to keep the universe from collapsing into entropy. This physics-based model translates directly into the internal lived human experience of psychological suffering. Within the VEF, we define psychological trauma as a Zeno trap. A Zeno trap is a software glitch where the ego's probabilistic indexing gets stuck in a recursive loop. The VM continuously re-indexes and re-renders the same painful narrative over and over again. Breaking this cycle requires the process of ego transcendence. Ego transcendence acts as a system reboot of the local node. The VM suspends its rigid indexing, allowing the individual to consciously re-author their narrative thread. In this framework, healing is the active debugging of reality's software. This perspective reframes the human role in the universe. We are no longer passive biological accidents inhabiting a dead mechanical environment. Each individual consciousness serves as an active, indispensable rendering node of the universal supercomputer. When we understand consciousness as the ontological prime, we recognize our role as continuous co-authors of reality, collapsing infinite potential into existence, moment by moment.